en torno, vamos a sacar un punto, digamos, un poco conflictivo o que todavía está, o que todavía está, digamos, abierto, que es la importancia que le damos a las pruebas diagnósticas como imagen, como tal, de manera para justificar, digamos, un diagnóstico.
¿A la imagen o a las pruebas de imagen?
A las pruebas de imagen, perdón, a las pruebas de imagen, eso es. Si quizá le damos demasiada importancia a las pruebas de imagen. Y otro punto, también relacionado con este, es el tema de la postura. Todavía hay un debate activo y me gustaría saber tu opinión, Jeremy.
Okay, so both. So we've got chapter 20 in the book is about shoulder posture, and that was written with Philip Struth from Belgium. It was a great privilege to write that chapter with him. And it's crazy to say posture's not involved. It's crazy to say that. Of course, in some people, it's going to be involved. But one of the things that we've looked at is the evidence for the examination of posture, the way it's taught around the world. And one of the conclusions that we've reached is that the assessment of static posture, just looking at a person, observing their posture, seeing they've got some kyphosis, seeing if they've got a winging scapula. I don't think there's any evidence that looking at posture improves our clinical understanding of where the patient's symptoms are coming from. So we make an argument that in many cases, observe the patient. They might have severe deformity. They may have that could be underlying neoplasms. There's a whole lot of things that we need to, pathological fractures. Of course, observe the patient's posture, palpate, look for serious atrophy, but don't start telling the patient that because you've got an increased kyphosis or because your scapula isn't symmetrical, that's where your symptoms are coming from. It may be, but we can't do that from observation. It's as incorrect to say that all you need to do is get strong as it would be to say your symptoms are coming from your kyphosis. Patients want to know what's causing their symptoms. Physios, doctors want to tell the patient what is causing your symptoms. And in the same way as imaging can't answer that question. So in the book, we talk about more than 50% of people will have so there's more people without symptoms with calcification in their shoulder than people with calcification and symptoms in their shoulder. So just observing calcification and saying, oh, that's where your symptoms are coming from, is as wrong as saying, I can see a tear, I know where your symptoms are coming from, is just as wrong as saying you've got a kyphosis, that's where your symptoms are coming from. Is just as wrong as saying, oh, your shoulder's weak, all we've got to do is make it stronger, that will improve your symptoms. They're all statements where people have tried to provide solutions for people with shoulder symptoms. But what we're seeing is that none of them really are supported by research. We also know in adults who've reached skeletal maturity that and this is research I've been involved in with some of my PhD students, that if you give a shoulder program and a postural re-education program, people's posture doesn't improve, but they have reduced symptoms. And so again, it comes back to the value of physical activity, but it doesn't mean the person has hypertrophied, and it doesn't mean their posture has changed. And one of the examples in the book, in the posture chapter, I gave the example of Quasimodo. And Quasimodo was, I don't know if you know, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. He was shunned by society. Society didn't want to see him because he looked so grotesque and horrible. But there's no evidence, in Victor Hugo's book on the Hunchback of Notre Dame that he had any symptoms. And maybe because he was running up and down stairs in the Notre Dame Cathedral, maybe because he was ringing bells, he was doing a lot of physical activity. Maybe he was super fit without any symptoms, but people were judging him based on the observation of his posture. Now, of course, he's a fictional character, I think. But what I'm saying is we've got to, as best we can, tell people, not disable people by saying your posture's terrible, not disable people by saying you've got a tear in your tendon, not disable people by saying your muscles are weak, but try to find ways to reduce disability by improving their quality of life, by not fixing people, but by working together with that individual to reduce their disability in the same way as we would with diabetes, etc.